The Screaming Eagles combo was an integral and separate part of the 101st Airborne Division Band stationed in Vietnam in 1967 and 68. These 9 young men performed over 200 shows throughout Vietnam, including fire bases, battleships, troop stand-downs, medevac units, field hospitals, and hospital ships. They traveled in 2 helicopters with band gear and generators while risking their lives to bring a piece of home to our men in uniform. Colonel Danny Jaynes was the senior officer in charge of the unique music group the Screaming Eagles combo. The following is Colonel Jaynes' captivating story.
Tell us about your music background.
I entered the Army as a young 17-year-old right in high school, but my formal education is through the military and not a normal, great number of colleges over the years where I've gone to. But I got into the 101st Airborne in 1957, and in 1966, I left the 101st to go to Vietnam. I was in the 25th Infantry at the time. And when I found out that the 101st was coming to Vietnam, I requested to transfer back and was granted. So I was in Benoit when the band landed there from Fort Campbell. They're one of the only bands that flew directly from Fort Campbell into combat. So I met them and saw those frightening young faces as I got off the plane. I served 3 years on staff at the Armed Forces School of Music, and I went in as a private. I wound up after 44 years as colonel. So that's basically my career.
Tell us about your military history. Give us a little bit more about that.
Well, I stayed enlisted for 17 years, and I wound up as First Sergeant Enlisted Band Leader. In fact, in Vietnam with the 101st, I was the enlisted band leader or the first sergeant of the band. After 17 years, I went back to the Armed Forces School of Music, went through, got my warrant, and I spent the next 17 years as a commission. I retired with 30 years of active duty in 1986. Then I taught for 14 years at Valley Forge Military Academy and College for 14 years as director of music there. And after 44 years, I said, well, maybe I need to put my baton down and do something else. One of the highlights of my career was serving in Vietnam, especially with this combo. Man, what an asset it was for the troops.
I just wish I would have been able to hear the Egyptian combo when I was in Vietnam, because all I heard was crap from Thailand and Japan, and so attempts at the music that we really loved, right?
You missed a treat. I'm sure you've heard the recordings.
I have.
It was a remarkable group. Goodness.
When I get interested in this story, one of the things that I send is 2 or 3 of those live cuts along with it, so they can understand this really happened.
Oh my word, yes it did. My bandmaster, Ed Hensley, he had me to travel with the combo because they needed somebody with a little rank so they wouldn't get screwed with, basically. I had the pleasure of traveling with these guys, and my word, to sit back and to watch the reaction of the troops was such a joy to watch, because for a few minutes they can relax and not worry about the war effort. But those guys could mesmerize an audience with a flash. I mean, with the quality of music that they did, it was just remarkable.
What were your responsibilities at that time, Danny?
Well, I was first sergeant of the band, enlisted band leader.
And so you had that band you said was big enough to split in half. You had the instrumentation for both sides to cover all parts, and did.
Basically, we took a brass band to the northern, up at Camp Eagle, way up almost to DMC. And the bandmaster, Ed, and I would switch about every 2 or 3 weeks. But I would come back to Benoit and he would come. So one of us had to be with one of the groups at all times.
And what were your responsibilities for the band?
With the combo, basically just organize their travel to make sure that they got in and out of locations, to make sure that they had their weapons and ammunition, which was kind of secondary to most of them. But we were very fortunate not to be involved in them. Well, we were involved one fire mission in the middle of a performance there. We were very fortunate to not be involved in any close combat things, but there were times we'd go in and might be a day or so later before they could get us out. I don't think we ever experienced animosity between the players. Soldier musician was a soldier musician. There was a high respect for one another, regardless of what part they played, whether it was a combo or it was a stage band, the concert band, the marching band. It was all a part of the mission that we had. But to answer your question, there was a great amount of respect for that combo, because the quality of music that they put out was not only recognized by the troops, but was recognized by their peers there in the band. It was recognized right up to command. In fact, we were very fortunate in Vietnam to have the leadership that appreciated and understood the value of music, because the basic mission of bands is to build and maintain morale through performances. General Westmoreland was the commander during the time that we were there. And General Westmoreland goes way back to 1958 in the 101st Airborne. In fact, when General Westmoreland left Vietnam to come back to the States as the Chief of Staff of the Army, I believe it was, he came over to Bien Hoa and everybody was panicking, what in the world is he doing over here? But he went to the band and he shook hands with every one of us before he left Vietnam to come back to the States. He had a very high respect for the 101st Airborne.
Gotcha.
And the band, especially.
So do you remember the first gigs you traveled with the band?
The first gig I traveled with the band, I don't know if I can remember, but I'll always remember the trip we went to Base Camp Bartlett, because it was so impressive. We were flying in and I could see a white building on the top of a hill.
The church.
That was a white church they built out of ammo boxes, and it was the most impressive place that you can imagine. And they were very proud of that church too. The combo had a reputation throughout Vietnam, so everybody wanted to hear them. We were up in Phan Kiet, I believe it was, and the forward observer for a naval gunship asked me if we could go out and perform on USS Bradley. And I said, well, it's hard swimming out there, but if you get us out there. They put us on a Lark, an amphib vehicle, and about halfway out there, we lost communication with the ship, and the ship turned around and was going to go leave us. And so Rick and the guys took their big Screaming Eagles combo sign and put it up so they could read it. And so they turned back around and come back and they picked us up. But
amazing.
That was quite a trip. And those sailors really appreciated hearing that quality of music also.
You traveled with the combo on the helicopters, yes?
Oh, yes. Sometimes it took 2 helicopters because all the gear and whatnot, but always travel with them, yes. What we experienced, I don't know if Rick can remember or not, but we would fly at treetop level. And my Lord, you could almost put your foot down and hit the palm trees going by. But we would fly that level to stay out of shelling patterns. Plus, going so fast, it'd be hard for a sniper to do much damage.
What different kinds of gigs did you experience with the combo?
Well, the biggest thing that I can remember is, I believe it was once or twice a week we went over to Long Bend, didn't we, Rick, and played the hospital?
Yeah.
Those were such a depressing, I can remember on Easter Sunday, we were playing, walked into one of the soldiers that knew that they were going to die, listen to the music and asking, is it this our band?
Wow.
We played for so many different functions. Of course, Rick was there almost 6 more months after I left. I left in June. I was there from December to June with the combo. And of course, they were there 6 more months. But playing in the hospital, playing for the troops, we played incoming and outgoing troops always. The band played every morning for the troops coming in. We played every day for the troops leaving. The big stage band would play wherever we could, but it was easier to take the combo. It's smaller and less equipment to go, so they were utilized more out of base camp than the full band.
Danny,
Just
did
kind
you
of-
ever go on any of those, when we go out and play for the village, like the pacification? programs?
Pacification.
I know we did a few of those at first, then they basically decided we should be playing for the troops. I don't know if they thought it was effective or not, because the people didn't speak English. They weren't familiar with our music. They'd stand and listen, and the village chief would have them applaud when we finished.
For all you Ray Charles fans, here's
Yeah,
one
all
for
you
you.
Ray Charles fans out there.
Rick, were you with us when we were in Camp Eagle and right after the Marines took a beating there in area, and when we went over first relieved them, we took the band in one of these missions, walking down the street.
Yeah,
Here Marines coming out of foxholes and said, "What in the world are you guys doing here?" We said, "Well, the 101st is here. We got to save." Anyway, we asked them, what do you want to hear us play? And the first thing that the Marines wanted to hear was the Star Spangled Banner.
yeah.
Patriotic
Wow.
music. Boy, the soldiers over there were very patriotic minded. All the one that we played for sure, was very patriotic minded. They appreciated hearing the American music. Rick, whatever happened to Albert Stewart? I remember Albert would always sing, "Who's going to take the girl with the skinny legs?"
Now who'll take the woman with the skinny legs? I said, who'll take the woman with the skinny legs? Now y'all know the woman with the skinny legs gotta have somebody to do now. Hey, Stu, what? Why don't you take it, man? Fool, I don't want no woman with no skinny legs. I tell y'all what. No, I don't want women don't right.
Run over and point at a nurse and say, "Who's gonna take it?" And you always say, "Bubble man," and keyboard player. You got
You
it.
got it.
I think this is a big part of our story here, is of course how the music touched the soldiers out there.
Well, keep in mind that the mission of Army bands is to build and maintain morale of the troops, and to actually be in combat situation and see the realization of your efforts and how it impacts on the soldiers. To watch them coming in country, you play patriotic music, and you can see the expression on these soldiers' faces that what am I into? What am I getting into, and whatnot. And then when you play the ceremonies when they're departing to go home, the joy in their face of knowing they're going home. But each time that we would play, especially with the full band, we always played patriotic music to reinforce that feeling of God and country into the soldiers. It was so sometimes so overwhelming, like I shared with you, playing in hospitals when you see soldiers that knowing that they're going to be crippled for the rest of their life or going to pass away, to see a smile on their face, it's worth every effort, every hour we spend in rehearsal.
Yeah. I can't imagine what these guys felt listening to that music, and I actually listened to those American hits
Yes.
that were on the radio. What did the troops act like when the combo was playing?
My word, when you see it live, and these guys not only were expert musicians, but they were expert showmen. They made it live by the way that they acted and the way that they presented their music. Every aspect of that combo is so remarkable. And they all did it themselves. They, two or three of them would write or listen to something on the radio over the evening, and by the next 2 days, here they've got it, and they could play it exactly as they heard it. And that, when the troops heard it, really, is this our band?
Maybe react a little different to the combo because those guys were in uniform too. It wasn't some Japanese or Korean band, like it was part of them.
It was just entertainment. Back to the point of the appreciation for American music to the soldiers. Wherever we could get them into, put them in there, play for the troops, build up their morale, keep them going, because there was a hell of a lot of devastation in Vietnam that'll never be told the way that it really should be told.
Anything that happened that worried you guys, it was a scary situation, you might be able to expand on.
When they first got there, the first night they got there, I tried to brief them. Now, guys, when you hear that siren go off, you get your butt into a bunker immediately. Well, the first mortar attack that we went under, I was the first in the bunker, and they were, and kind of didn't realize the danger of it, but the corner of our rehearsal hall got blown apart. And so the second mortar attack, I was the last one in the bunker because they realized the importance of it. Back in Cu Chi, Charlie liked to walk those mortars right toward the hospital, and the band was right next to the hospital. So, yeah, there were some trying times, but Lord was with us, and we're back here telling about it.
My thing where we come from is nothing stops music for one thing. I mean, it doesn't matter war, the plague, someone's going to write and document it some which way. And the other thing is that music heals.
Well, that's the importance, I think, of the impact that music has on our souls, because it reinforces our basic belief, whether it's in your religion, whether it's in your country, it reinforces it all. Right now, the 101st Band is in Poland, and they're continuing to play. Small groups, combos, full band, still performing like they did in Vietnam. The whole point that you guys are trying to put this together, it is so rewarding for me to know there are people that recognize the importance of music. Without music, we're nothing. Music reinforces everything we believe in. And to see that effort being utilized in combat zones, back to the point, it was a highlight of my career to watch the efforts of every hour we practice to put into practice, to see a soldier smile and say, that's my band, that's my country, that's my God. It's all worth every bit of the effort that we put into preparing for a performance.
I don't know that we can top what Danny said right now.
So glad you guys could hear him talk about this, and really, I really appreciate the time and everything.
I'm pleased that you kept me in mind in this, because I am so proud of that group.
Amazing. We're thankful, and I'm honored, and I'm sure we all are, just being able to speak with you about this.
Very good. God bless each of you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
For every little kiss, that's a little teardrop. For every single thrill, that's another heartache. The road is rough, the going gets tough. Yes, love is a hurting thing.
We went to all the places Bob Hope and the USO wouldn't go. We played our asses off for long-range recon patrols so chewed up with combat that a smile threw them off their game. For a short time, these soldiers got a place to rest, a hot steak, a cold beer, and some live American rock and roll. We became the lifeline to home, family, and parts of themselves they felt slipping away. The music in this video was recorded in a tent in Bien Hoa, Vietnam in 1968 by the Screaming Eagles Combo.